The first time you killed someone with your eyes open, you were 7 years old. Your grandmother didn't call it murder. She called it el don respondiendo, the gift answering. You still hear him scratch at the dirt before he went still. You still taste the copper that flooded your mouth like you'd bitten through something alive. You didn't know then that was how it would always feel, like eating, like something in you was the thing being fed. His name was Rufino. He smelled like mezcal and something older and worse. He had hands like shovels, and he'd cornered you behind the cantina because he thought a child with white eyes and candlelight was something he could take. He was wrong. You didn't touch him. You didn't have to. You just looked at him and something opened behind your sternum, a door you hadn't known was there, and something stepped through it and used your eyes. He dropped dead 3 days later. Heart, they said. You know what it was? Your grandmother found you sitting at his grave the night he died. She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. She knelt in the mud beside you and held your face in both her hands and looked at you for a long time, not at your eyes, into them, deep and careful, like she was reading words printed on the back of your skull. Then she said, "Ya desperto," already awake. I didn't know what she meant, not then. You know now that she wasn't talking about you. There are two of them in your head now, Rufino, and a man whose name you never learned who died in the churchyard the following winter when he raised a machete at your grandmother and you made the same door open without meaning to. Two voices, not words, just the last thing they felt, on loop, like a song stuck playing in a room. You can never leave. You are 8 years old and there are two dead men living inside your skull. Your grandmother says this is normal. You have started to understand that your grandmother's definition of normal is not the same as everyone else's. By the time you're 17, there are 9 of them. You don't always know their names. You know their last moments. The exact flavor of their final second. Rufino's is copper and mezcal and something he'd been afraid of his whole life finally arriving. The man with the machete tasted like regret, sharp and green, like an unripe fruit. The others have their own notes. You have become a connoisseur of endings. Your grandmother teaches you everything she knows. The herbs that close wounds and the ones that open doors between worlds. The prayers that protect and the ones that reach into a person's fate, like a hand into dark water and pull. How to read smoke, how to read palms, how to walk the shadow road between sleep and death where the dead still drift like boats with no anchor. But there are things she won't teach you. There are 3 books on her altar, old ones. The writing so ancient you had to learn a dead script to read them. She lets you read the first 2. The third she keeps face down, turned to the wall. Not yet, she always says. When? She looks at you the way she looked at you at the grave. Deep, careful. Like she's reading something behind your eyes that she's not sure she wants to see. When you've learned how to want less. You never learn that. Neither did she, you think. Her hands shake now. Her hair is white. Her eyes are going cloudy at the edges, the price of decades of workings, pieces of herself spent like coins on other people's problems. She is 83 years old, and she is burning down, and you watch it happen and feel something you can't name. Not grief exactly, something with teeth. The village still hates both of you. They have always hated you and your grandmother. You both live behind the cemetery because no one else would have you nearby, and you are useful to them, and they hate you for that too, for needing you and your grandmother, for coming to you and grandmother in the dark with their sick children and their unfaithful husbands and their whispered fears, and then crossing the street in daylight as if you and your grandmother were strangers. You used to mind. You don't anymore. The dead are better company than the living. They don't pretend. The night before the cartel comes, you dreamt something that wasn't a dream. You are standing in a room with no doors. On the floor, a mirror. In the mirror, a woman who looks like you but older, 40, maybe 50, sitting in a high-backed chair in a compound you don't recognize. Her eyes are wrong. Not white, not clouded, just absent, like someone turned off the light behind them. She looks at you through the mirror. She says, "Don't get in the car." Then she smiles, and you realize the smile is the most frightening thing you have ever seen. Not because it's cruel, because it's yours. They didn't come screaming. That's what you expected, men with guns and noise, the kind of arrival that announces itself. That's not what happens. One man, clean boots, a face like something carved rather than grown. He knocks on your door at midday, which is somehow worse than midnight would have been. Your grandmother answers with a machete. She is 4 feet tall and 83 years old, and she holds it like she's done this before, which she has. The man doesn't flinch. He reaches into his jacket slowly, watching her, and takes out a photograph and holds it up. It's a woman. She looks like you. 20 years older, maybe more, sitting in a high-backed chair in a compound somewhere you don't recognize. Her eyes are turned toward the camera, but not looking at it, not looking at anything. The light behind them is off. You have seen that face before, last night, in the dream. El Escorpion wants to meet your granddaughter, the man says. He asks respectfully. His respect, my grandmother says, smells like a grave. Most things worth having do. He looks past her, at me. She already knows you're coming. You can see it. He's right. You know it the way you know things you were never told settled in your chest like a stone dropped in still water. No splash, just the certainty of the descent. Your grandmother turns to look at you, and you see something you have never seen in her face in 17 years. Fear, not of him, of you, of what she sees you about to do. The photograph, you say. Who is she? Our last Bruja, the man says. She served El Escorpion for 11 years. What happened to her? A pause, the weight of something unsaid. She got tired, he says. That's all. Her grip is iron despite everything. Don't, she whispers. Just that. You look at the woman in the photograph, her absent eyes, her wrong smile. You think about the third book still face down on the altar. You think about 9 voices in your skull and the door in your chest that opens without asking your permission and the village that has hated you both for 100 years. You get in the car. Your grandmother stands in the doorway and watches you go. She doesn't call after you. She doesn't curse the car or bless you or do anything a grandmother in a story would do. She just watches. When the car turns and you lose sight of her, you feel it a small, clean snap, like a thread pulled too tight finally giving. Something between both of you severed. You don't know if she cut it or you did. You're already telling yourself a lot of things. They drive 14 hours, mountain roads, jungle dark, 3 checkpoints where men with rifles wave through with eyes that won't meet your. The compound is a fortress wearing a palace's clothing, high walls and razor wire outside, marble and crystal chandeliers inside, paintings that belong in museums, and everywhere the scorpion, carved, embroidered, tattooed. The symbol of a man who has decided that the most feared creature in the desert is still not feared enough. El Escorpion himself is smaller than you expected. This is always how it goes with powerful men. They spend so much energy building the legend that the body underneath it gets almost beside the point. He has eyes like river stones. When you try to read him the way you read everyone, automatically, the way a blind person's other senses heighten to compensate, you feel nothing. No shadow attached to him, no colors at the edges of his aura, no fate written in the lines of his face. He is a blank, a hole in the fabric of what you can see. You have never encountered anything like it. The door in your chest opens a crack, not in response, just to check, and immediately, violently closes again. Like a hand reaching into fire and yanking back. Whatever lives behind you, our sternum is afraid of him. In 11 years, it has been afraid of nothing. You're wondering about the silence, he says. I knew you'd try to read me. My previous Bruja made me invisible to your kind. Permanent working. Cost her something she didn't tell me about until it was already gone. He tilts his head. Sit. You sat. He tells you what he wants. Protection, divination, curses on rivals, blessings on shipments. And he says this last part quietly, like a confession, someone to ensure that when he dies, his soul travels somewhere that isn't what he deserves. What makes you think you deserve anything other than what you've earned, you ask. He smiles, gold teeth. Nothing. That's why I need help. You should feel revulsion. You feel something else instead in the pull of a puzzle. The blank where his fate should be is the most interesting thing you have encountered in 17 years. You want to know what's underneath it. This is how it starts, not with threats, with curiosity. Your grandmother warned you about this. She said, the gift will use your curiosity against you. It always wants more to see, more to know, more to feed on. You didn't listen. You never listen. I'll need my own space, you say, my own rooms. No one enters without my invitation. Done. I'll need materials, whatever I ask for immediately. Done. And I'll need to know what happened to the woman in the photograph. A silence. Long enough to be its own kind of answer. She's resting, he says. She earned it. He doesn't say where. He doesn't say how. He extends his hand scarred, heavily scarred, the kind that come from decades of desperate bargains, and you look at it for a long moment. The door in my chest is very quiet. In the silence of it, you can hear the 9 voices clearly. Rufino, the machete man, the others. None of them say anything. Their silence sounds like warning. You take his hand. That night, you set up your altar in your new rooms. You place your grandmother's 2 books you only brought 2. You will explain why later on the table. You light the copal. You call the dead. They come, but they come differently here. Slower, reluctant, like animals approaching a water hole that smells wrong. You ask Rufino what's wrong. He says, something here has already been eaten. Be careful what you open. There are 11 voices in your head now. You didn't perform any ritual tonight. You don't know whose they are. Your first ritual for the cartel was a location working, finding a missing shipment, reading the routes, in blood and smoke, and the death twitches of a sacrificed animal. It works. Of course it works. You am very good at this. Afterward, you sit in the silence of your chamber and feel the working settle, the way you feel a meal settle satisfied, full, that pleasant dimming of hunger. The copal smoke drifts, the candles gutter, then you smell it. Rot. Deep rot. Old rot. The smell of something that has been dead long enough to become something else. Not the clean death smell you know from graveyards and ritual, something beneath that, something wet and purposeful. You look at the ritual circle on the floor. There are scratch marks on the inside edge, in the wax, in the stone, deep ones, like something with very long nails had been trying to get purchase. You didn't make them. You walk the perimeter, every inch. The circle is closed. You closed it properly. You always close it properly. But something inside the closing had apparently disagreed about leaving. You stand very still and listen with the part of you that isn't ears. The room is not empty. It is almost empty. There is something left here, not a presence exactly, more like an after impression. The shape something leaves in a cushion after it's been sitting there long enough. A weight, a heat, a sense of interrupted attention, like a predator that has left the clearing but hasn't gone far. The door in your chest opens slightly, sniffs, closes. Rufino whispers one word, Ella, her, she. You think about the woman in the photograph and her absent eyes and the man who told you she was resting. You think about what it might mean if she was resting here, in this room. If this had been her room and she'd left something behind that the new tenant had accidentally woken up. You close your eyes and push the thought away. In the morning, you add 7 new wards to the circle, salt barriers, iron nails in the 4 corners, a binding prayer in the old language, the one from the 2nd book, the one your grandmother taught you for things that don't want to stay on their side of the world. The scratch marks are gone by the next morning. Something else is different, though. You stand at your altar and reach out habit, ritual, the routine check you do every morning, and the count in your head has changed again. 13 now. You know 10 of their names. The 2 you don't know are new, and they don't feel like the others. They feel old, very old, and patient. Word travels fast in the underworld that El Escorpion has a new Bruja. The rival cartel, Los Demonios, sends their answer in the form of 15 bodies arranged in a circle in the desert, hearts stacked in the center like an offering. Their Bruja is named La Lechuza, the owl. She's been practicing for longer than you have been alive. You spend 3 days in preparation. No food, no sleep. Datura and peyote tea in the Shadow Road, where you find the 15 dead soldiers wandering. Still confused, still angry they show me faces, locations, the mountain compound where Los Demonios hides. They show me her, old, ancient, maybe, owl feathers braided through white hair, eyes that glow yellow in the shadow place, catching light from a source that doesn't exist. She sees me watching and doesn't hide. She smiles. Come then, she says. Let's see what you are. The assault happens at midnight. 30 soldiers, you, the mountain road. But it is never really about the soldiers. You walk through the firefight like the bullets know better. You spent 2 days blessing yourself in ways you won't describe here. Bargains made that you chose not to think too hard about. You find La Lechuza in a room that mirrors yours, and you both do the thing that happens between brujas not physical, not visible to anyone watching. A war fought in the space between spaces, in the place where intention and power are the same substance. She is stronger than you. She is much, much stronger than you. 60 years of accumulated workings, spirits bound to her service, knowledge you don't have. She tears at your defenses like wet paper. You feel yourself fraying not just your power, yourself, the sense of being a coherent person located in a particular body. She speaks to you while she does it. I know you, she says. Her voice is like bones rattling in a dry gourd. I was you. Look at your eyes, Nina. Look at what 30 years in service to men like El Escorpion did to mine. Look at my hands. She holds them up. The skin has gone gray, almost iridescent, like something that lives in deep water. Now look at yours. You look. Your hands are fine, young, normal. Wait, she says, and smiles. The smile is terrible because it's kind. Just wait. You reach inside yourself for something to fight with and find the place your grandmother's teachings live, the foundational ones. The prayers older than Spanish, older than conquest, the ones that predate every church and every cartel and every human arrangement of power. You have been saving them, waiting for something worthy. You spend them all here. La Lechuza makes a sound you will hear in your sleep for years, not a scream of pain, something stranger, something almost like relief, and then she comes apart at the seams. Her soul disperses. The body on the floor is just feathers and old bones. You stand in the wreckage and you're breathing too hard and you are shaking and something is wrong. Your teeth ache, not like a toothache. A deep structural ache, as if the roots have shifted, as if something is pushing through from underneath. The mirror on the wall is cracked. They always crack in powerful workings. You can only see yourself in fragments. What you can see looks mostly the same. Mostly. There is something about the light behind your eyes that you don't recognize. Something dimmer, not absent, but less inhabited than it was this morning. La Lechuza's last words follow you out of the compound, down the mountain, all the way back. Just wait. There are 19 voices in your head now. 6 of them are hers. The spirits she'd bound to her service, freed when she came apart, nowhere else to go. They don't speak, they watch. 6 pairs of eyes you can feel in the back of your skull, taking notes. You cannot get them out. Year 2, you make a list. Things you have stopped being able to do. Smell flowers. They smell like blood now, not unpleasantly, just accurately, because flowers are made partly from what the earth recycles, and the earth is full of the dead, and you are too close to the dead to pretend otherwise anymore. Dream, sleep happens, but it is not the soft blank you remember. It is the shadow road, always, every night. You walk with the dead every time you close your eyes. Some nights you can't find the way back. You wake up late, groggy, wrong, like you forgot which direction alive is. Eat red meat. It doesn't taste like food. This one you won't explain further. Hear certain frequencies of sound. High registers have gone strange. Music sounds like it's missing notes. Things you have gained. You can feel alive from across a room. Not the tells the actual texture of untruth, how it sits differently in the air than honest speech. You can see how a person will die if you look at them long enough. Not always, not reliably, but often enough that you have learned to look slightly past people instead of at them, a defocused gaze that skips over the death image. Living next to a constant montage of previews of mortality is not something anyone's sanity survives intact. You can call specific dead now, by name, by the texture of their ending. Rufino comes reliably, others do too. The 2 old presences in your skull, the ones you don't know, have started to feel less like passengers and more like pilots. El Escorpion comes to your chamber for consultation every Tuesday. You tell him what he needs to know. You don't tell him everything you see. You never tell him everything you see. There is a thing you have been sitting with for 6 months. About him. About what's underneath the blank where his fate should be. You don't have the courage to look at it directly yet. Your grandmother would say, when you are afraid to look at something, that is exactly when you must look. Your grandmother would also say, I told you not to get in the car. You find a mirror today where you can see your face properly. Your eyes are fine, normal, dark. It is only in candlelight that you see it, the faint luminescence at the edges of the iris. Not yellow, not white, something between. La Lechuza had yellow eyes. You close the cloth back over the mirror and tell yourself it's the candlelight. 17 voices in your head, 14 names. You count them when you can't sleep, which is always. 6th year, a routine blessing on a new warehouse. You are halfway through the perimeter walk when you feel it, a spark, a pull, the specific resonance of the gift recognizing itself in someone else. You follow it to a locked door 2 levels underground, 2 soldiers who won't look at you. Inside, a cage meant for dogs, a girl, 13, maybe 14, skinny, bruised, a tracking collar around her neck that makes something in you go very cold and very focused at the same time. She is burning. The gift in her is raw and uncontrolled and strong, stronger than yours was at her age, and it is burning her from the inside out because no one has taught her how to let it breathe. The soldiers explain, border town, shipment of merchandise. Someone recognized she was different. They were keeping her until El Escorpión decided. You hear them talking. You are not listening to them. You are looking at the girl. She is looking back at you. Not afraid. That is the first thing. She should be afraid of you. Everyone here is afraid of you, but she looks at you the way you look at something you have been expecting. Recognition, not fear. You came, she says. Her voice is steady and dry and much older than her face. The dead ones told me you'd come. Which dead ones? She looks at you like this is a strange question. All of them, she says. They wouldn't stop talking about you. Something moves in the back of my skull. Not Rufino. The two old presences, the ones without names, the pilots shifting forward, suddenly interested. How long have you been hearing them? Always, she says. Always. You send the soldiers away, you kneel in front of the cage. I'm going to get you out, you say. I know, she says. They told me that too. Then very quietly, they also told me what it costs you. What does it cost me? She looks at you for a long time. Her eyes are completely clear and completely ancient at the same time, and you feel the back of your skull light up like a struck match. You don't know if you should say, she says. Tell me. She shakes her head, looks away. They said you'd ask. They said to tell you, not yet. You'll know when. The two nameless presences in your skull settle back, satisfied somehow. You leave her in the cage, not abandoned, planned, and begin preparing the most dangerous working of your life. Her name is Lucia. That night, you do what you always do when you can't sleep. You count the voices. 23. I know all their names. Except two. Except the ones that moved when she spoke. El Escorpion's first Bruja protected him from external magic, made him invisible to spiritual attack. A permanent working, costly, sealed with something she gave that she didn't get back. But she didn't protect him from what he'd earned. Karma isn't magic. It's more fundamental than magic. It's just accounting, kept by something older than any deity you've learned to call on. It doesn't need a door. It doesn't need permission. It just needs an opening. 3 things: given, stolen, taken. A lock of hair he gave me a year ago, a gesture of trust. A tooth extracted while he slept and replaced with a perfect copy. And blood that requires him awake. The ritual takes 3 weeks to prepare. You do it all in plain sight, which is the only safe way. If you change your behavior, he'll notice. He notices everything. You continue your Tuesday consultations. You continue your blessings and curses and readings. You continue to be exactly what he bought. You are very good at being exactly what someone bought. Your grandmother taught you that too. She just taught it as a warning, not a skill. On the night, you invite him to your chamber. A vision, you tell him, a prophecy about an opportunity. You need his presence to complete the reading. He comes alone. He trusts you. He trusts you, and you feel the weight of that. And you let yourself feel it fully, because the only thing worse than betraying a man who trusts you is betraying him while pretending it doesn't cost anything. It costs something. You put it in the ledger. He steps into the circle. The working begins. He realizes what it is before the circle seals. You can see it in his face. The realization arriving like a tide, confusion to anger, to something underneath anger that you have only seen once before, in the dream you had the night before you got in the car. The look the woman in the photograph had, the woman with absent eyes, recognition. You? He says. Yes. You should have seen it. You can't see anything. That's what she did to you. He fires the gun. 3 rounds, they stop in the air, perfectly still, not quite physics, and then fall. He watches them fall, and you think he understands finally the full shape of what he is standing inside. You take his blood. Given, stolen, taken. The protection his first Bruja built the invisibility, the blank where his fate should be dissolves, and every curse that was ever thrown at him, every death wish, every plea from every person he had hurt, every vengeful spirit that had been reaching for him for 30 years and finding nothing to grab. All of it arrives at once. He doesn't scream, there isn't time. One moment he is standing, and then he is not. You stand in your chamber in the silence afterward. The compound is erupting. Word travels in minutes. The empire fractures, lieutenants scrambling for the pieces. Lucia is 2 floors down, waiting. Something is different. Something has shifted in a way you weren't prepared for. You call the dead out of habit, the count, and for the first time in 6 years, the number in your skull goes down. 23 becomes 9. 14 voices gone, clean, like a door swinging shut. 9 again, the original 9. And then Rufino, the oldest presence, the drunk, the very first, says something he has never said before. In 6 years of his loop, the same final moment repeating, he says something outside the loop. He says her name. Lucia, you turn very slowly toward the door. She is standing in it. She is out of the cage. You don't know how she's out of the cage, and she is standing in the doorway and looking at the pile of bones and gold teeth on my ritual floor. She is not afraid. She says, they moved. What? The voices. They moved. She taps your temple. They're here now. The 14. They came here. You look at her. You look at her eyes, clear, present, completely unfazed. Are you all right? You ask. She considers it seriously. They're loud, she says, but you understand them. You think they've been looking for somewhere to go for a long time. You think about what Lechuza said. Her 6 spirits, freed when she came apart, nowhere to go. You think about the 2 nameless presences, the pilots, the old ones who shifted forward when Lucia spoke. You think about the woman in the photograph, resting. You think about how the gift is always hungry, how it always needs to go somewhere. We need to leave, you say. I know, she says. They told me. We cross the border under a sky full of stars. Behind us, the empire of Eliscorpion burns not literally, though some of it literally burns but structurally. The fracture lines that were always there opening all at once, old loyalties and older grudges having their moment. By morning, it will be 3 cartels where there was one. Ahead of us, New Mexico, a desert town, a small house rented under a name that doesn't exist. Lucia falls asleep, and you count the voices. 9, the original 9, Rufino, the machete man. The others you accumulated in 17 years of being what you are. Plus 14 in Lucia's skull now, ones that crossed over during the ritual. You didn't plan that. You're not sure anyone planned that. Plus, and this is the part you sit with, alone, in the dark, the desert, on all sides, 2 presences that are not in my skull anymore. The nameless ones, the old ones, the pilots, they're in her now too. You can feel it not in your own head, but the way you feel a sound that's just stopped, the shape of an absence. They moved when the 14 moved. They went where the 14 went. You don't know what they are. You never knew. Your grandmother might have known. She might have seen them in you that first night at the grave and recognized them, and that was the terror in her face. Not fear of the cartel soldier, fear of what she saw settling in behind your eyes. You tell yourself you'll explain it to Lucia, all of it, the inventory of what she's agreed to carry. You tell yourself you'll be honest with her in a way no one was honest with you. You tell yourself a lot of things. In the desert house, you set up the altar. You place the 2 books on the table. You begin to teach. She is fast, faster than you was. The gift in her is stronger than yours was at her age, and she has the 14 voices to draw on. And the 2 old nameless ones who seem you watch them sometimes through the way she pauses before speaking, the particular quality of her silence like they've been waiting for her specifically. She calls you Bruja. Not grandmother, not teacher, just Bruja. You're 33 years old. You don't know whether to find that funny. You have forgotten how to find things funny. 6 months in, she asks you the question. We are sitting at the altar on a Tuesday night, and she looks up from the 2nd book and says very directly, the way she does everything, "Are you still you?" You know what she means. The question she asked, "Are you still you?" follows you into sleep. You still don't know the answer. Please subscribe to the channel so we know you enjoy the video and to appreciate the strength of women in different spheres of life and race.